The bids are in, the gavel's dropped. Ladies and gentlemen, here at WineBid, we are finally hammered. That's right, this is WineBid's podcast dedicated to all things wine value, wine auctions, wine retail, and just wine. My name is Jeff McGurn. I'm on the WineBid marketing team. With me, as always, is the guru of Gamay. That's right, Paul Walker, our wine expert. Paul is an expert in all things wine. This is our wine auction recap episode. We're going to be walking through all the stuff that happened this last week at auction, all the big movement. Let's start right off with, we had four of these, 99 Domaine Ramonais Chassagne Montrachet Clos de Baudriot Rouge. And they had 12 bids on them, taking them from $55 to about $110, $111 a piece.
Yep.
I mean, that's pretty big movement on this 99 Ramonais.
Yeah, I mean, it's, anything from 90, especially 99. A great red vintage, obviously Ramonais, better known for the white wines, but people are going to pay real money for anything from this producer, especially from a great red vintage. So one of their few, or at least known to me, red wines from Chassagne Montrachet. There were also 3-packs, which looked like a deal, I think, to start with, but those got bid up equally, as much. So no getting away with deals on the 3-packs. Sometimes they can sneak by for slightly better deal, but not really in this case, because it looks like
not today.
they all, the singles, hammered it out 110, and then the 3-packs were about 300 a piece. So it's, I guess, a little bit better deal, but not much.
You weren't getting much of a price break there. We had these 2015 Domaine de Montier Pommard Les Pézeroles.
Pézerole.
That's what I said. Two of them had 8 bids taken from $60 to $66 a piece, 66, 67. So some movement on some Burgundy there. We had this 2015 Antoine Jobard Marceau en Laubert, 7 bids from 70 to 79.
Yeah, still, a lot cheaper than Lafon and tasty wine. So
not crazy. We had this 2000 Bernard Moret Chassagne Montrachet Le Carré going from 45, 7 bids took from 45 to 63.
First of all, let me congratulate you on a very nice pronunciation of that entire label there. That was,
as it turns out,
it sounded fantastic.
You can teach an old dog new tricks. I'm listening, Paul. Okay, these ears. Okay, they're
that
keen.
Was really, very mellifluous. It wasn't, jarring and headache inducing as usual.
I love how you insert your SAT word there, right? Like you just have to slip it in under the radar, like you use the word all the time, right? We had, again, like you said, that the 99 3-bottle lot went from 150, 7 bids took it to 300. We had, this was kind of interesting, 04 E Pagliari, Rogna, Barbaresco, Montefico. 6 of them, they went from 110 to about 130, about 140 a piece, I guess, is where they kind of averaged out.
That's an interesting one too, because I think I should look and see. There were, when we were talking about all those crazy half bottles that were in a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. And I think all the Rogna wines sold, because this wine used to be fairly easy to find and not expensive. And now I notice there's like Langhe Rosso in the auction for $45, and that's what the Barolo used to sell for. But not too surprising, because it's gone way up in popularity. So
we had this 99 Pierre Matreau Puny Montrachet Les Chalumeau.
Close.
Chalumeau. That one, a little bit of movement from 45 to 47, but that all went. And then one we had talked about a lot was all the Ridge ATP stuff in auction, the advanced tasting program, which I think you're not allowed to buy unless you're an advanced taster. So I think you can buy it. I cannot. They won't allow it. But this one was 2018 Ridge Wuchniani.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard different pronunciation
Wuchniani.
from Buckinani to Buchanani, like all kinds
I
of
like Buckinanny, like you were
Buckinani
just
Ranch.
saying.
Yeah.
Buckinanny Ranch, Infidel ATP. 7 bids took to from 20 to 30, just under 34, $33 a piece.
Yeah,
But
I mean, that was a steal right out the gate, right?
it really
$20
was.
for any Ridge wine. Come on, that's way too cheap. So I'm not surprised.
That stuff was really well priced. '05 Sylvain, Patier,
Tight, yeah.
Patai, Massinier, Les Austral. 7 bids took 2 of those from 45 to a paltry $260 a bottle.
Yeah.
Wow.
Serious stuff. Major, sort of underground hip following for a while. And then the prices kind of followed several years ago. And these became much, much more sought after. So yeah, that's an interesting one. That's a big jump. That's a really big jump. Because we've seen, like, I checked out a couple other examples. Like, we've seen the 15 and hammered at 57 a couple of years ago in 2020. So 3 years ago. So, that stuff has gone way up. Now, I don't know if more recent vintages would fetch that kind of money, but '05 was a phenomenal red vintage. So, and probably pretty darn hard to replace this one.
Yeah, absolutely. 2015 Antoine Jobard, Merceau, Genevieve. 3 of those. What's that?
I said close.
Close. I'm getting better.
You're getting better.
3 of those started at 136. Bids took them to about 160, 170 a piece. A lot of movement on Burgundy wines this week.
Yeah.
Another 2000 Bernard Maury. I mean, that one went from 45 to 59 after 6 bids. 1996 Atine Sauzet Pouilly Montrachet Les Combet. This one, 6 bids, took 2 of those from 105 to 190. Piece 190, 185, 190, 180, 190. And then we had some more movement on Barolo, some 99 Ferdinando Principiano, Barolo Boscaretto. 6 bids took those from 35 to 45 and 46 respectively. And then this one I thought was interesting. 2014, Paul Pelot, Chassagne Montrachet, Clan Saint-Jean. 6 bids took just one bottle from 105 to 180.
Yeah. That's a, extremely sought after producer now, and still relatively, well, I'm not going to say inexpensive, but they're not fetching wine or prices like Lamy Cayat wines and some of these other things we've seen recently. They look like a bargain next to some of those. So it's not crazy, but 14, phenomenal vintage. And so just a single bottle, it's going to generate a lot of activity. That was pretty wild. Did you see this South African Shiraz? 2000, the Roosten Breed or Roosten Bread. I don't know how to pronounce it.
So that I actually was going to bid on. I think I did bid on that, actually. I bid on it when it was at 15 because I've had this. I bought like a case of Roosten Breed Shiraz. I didn't have the 2000, but I was paying like $35 for it. So $15, I was like, this is a steal. And it's really good stuff. Like I think I might have a bottle or 2 left. I love that stuff. So I was bidding on that Rust and Breed, and I was bid out very quickly.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I mean, that's a really tough one to replace, like that Patai Marseille. You're not going to be able to go find that anywhere anytime soon. So that's kind of wild. Also, original owner, it looks like. So it's been sitting in someone's cellar for however many years, 20 years. So
it's good stuff. It's really good stuff.
Yeah, I know this producer, but I haven't had those wines in a long time. I was surprised those Irie Pinots didn't get bid up more, because with its sister's vineyard, it could be that it's not as sought after as, say, the estate wines. I'm not saying it's not estate fruit. I don't really know, but it's a great Oregon producer. So that seemed like actually a pretty reasonable deal. They all sold for about $45, $46.
Yeah, we did have there was 5 bids on the 08 Bergstrom Winery de Lancelotti Vineyard Pinot Noir.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
35 to 48. And then another one that I thought was interesting was the 2019 Calcareous Vineyard Mousse. I like Calcareous Vineyards. I like their Cabernet Sauvignon. I actually love their Tres Voilette. I think that stuff is, I really enjoy it. And I have not had the mousse yet, but that was one I had my eye on as well. But that stuff all went for $38, a little bit higher than 30. And then another one that was interesting, so moving on to 89 Brain Cantenac, 5 bids took from 85 to 100. So Brain Cantenac coming up in price, but 89, good vintage. And actually both of the 89s, because we had 2 lots, both of them went for 100.
100, yeah. That is pretty interesting too, just because, it's another one of those wines that you're not going to see that regular. You find obviously more recent vintages, but in late 80s, you're more likely to see first growth and some of the other larger production Bordeaux. But that's I would not have expected that, honestly. And then the only other one that I wanted to mention was we had 2 bottles of Clos Roger Focal Saumur. Yeah, the white. Yeah,
the white Clos Roger Blanc. And 2015, 2016, both got 5 bids. Both started at 200. The 2015 hammered at 260 and the 2016 hammered at 290. So, but I also think, and I'm going to check here to see if I'm wrong, I feel like we don't see these at auction a ton, In fact, for both of them, this was the first time we've seen those bottles at auction.
Yeah, the white wine doesn't happen to hit too often, whereas the various versions of the Cabernet Franc we do see pretty often. Actually, I think they generally, there's one in now. I think that's rolled. But anyway, you're right. The white wine is harder to come by. I think some of the older vintages we've seen that kind of went crazy. I can't remember. I think the 14 hammered for over 300 earlier this year. And I think that might have been one of the real serious ones, but yeah, very sought after stuff.
And then moving on, let's take a look at some of the heavy hitters, shall we?
Sure.
We've got up at top of the price point, we had a case of 2000 12-bottle lot OWC Cheval Blanc, which went for a mere $9,960 for 12 bottles. I don't know. Does that seem like an excessive amount? We're looking at $830 a bottle for 2000 Cheval Blanc. That doesn't seem crazy to me. That's a great.
No, it doesn't. I still remember that when that wine was for sale on Futures, it was a really big deal and it was really expensive. I think it was like 4 something way back when. In fact, I think I've mentioned this before, but I believe that was, at least in my experience, the first year that the vintage was for sale the same year. The futures were for sale for the vintage in the same year, which I never remember that happening before that. It was pretty crazy. And so huge amount of hype for that wine. And it was so rare and so allocated. I mean, there's a lot less of it than, all the first growths and some of the other big star Bordeaux wines. So yeah, it didn't seem that crazy. This, how many years later, 20 years later after release anyway, it's only doubled in price. We've seen a lot of other crazy examples of things that have exploded, and even just in Bordeaux and first growth and things where there's higher production of the wine, it's not as rare. So I don't think that's too crazy. 89 Mouton was inexpensive too, at 52.
Yeah, 89 Mouton.
That wine's not that great, but
5,220. 1996, Bruno Giacosa, Rabaja, 12-bottle lot OWC for 4,500. Rabaya for 4,500.
That's a rare one. That's good luck finding that again. Those are rare full case lots of.
You say that. You say that as you come into auction like every week now for the rest of the year, right? Like famous last words.
Not likely.
01 6-liter of Margaux.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I thought that was a great party bottle. $3,855. I thought that, that wasn't terribly crazy. 15 Armand Rousseau Chambertin sold for $34.20. Serious.
Crazy. Those wines are just crazy these days. It's wild.
'05 3-liter of Latour, or rather 3-liter of '05 Latour, sold for $3,130. I thought that was super interesting. I mean, '05, great vintage, $782.50 per 750 of Latour. Not crazy. Not, not out of this world. 59 Lafite sold for $2,370. And then we've got this 3-bottle lot of Harlan OWC that sold for 2017 Harlan Estate sold for $23.55.
You skipped over one that I thought was nuts, which was the Bouchard, the Rosé Sagné Credon Fer. That's just wild that a Bouchard wine would go for 600 and what was it, 620 or something like that. That's just nuts to me, because I mean, the rosé is rarer, obviously, than the other wines, but still, it's just, man, that is incredible. I was blown away by that. So,
what else did I miss? Anything else in the heavy hitters you want to?
Nothing too wild. I think there's 99 Monfortino sold. That's probably one of the last vintages you'll get for under $1,000. It sold for what, $890 or 900 or something like that. And that 94 Cast 23 Mag we talked about, those things sold, not too much more than reserve, but still, that was a pretty cool wine, especially, the 94 large format. No, I don't think so. The 89 Giacosa Barbaresco Reserva sold at $1,525. That's an amazing wine. And we had that really interesting old 1834 Barbato Madeira hammered at $14.95. So Close on Hune 96 also. That was cool to see 4 of those.
85 Mag of Dom hammered for $12.50.
Wow.
That was also something interesting an interesting sight to behold, shall I say.
Certainly.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our auction recap. This has been Jeff and Paul Walker wishing you happy bidding and cheers.
Cheers.